the summer is coming to an end, which is very bittersweet, but shelling bean season is here, which that is extremely exciting. Very, very, very exciting.
Shelling bean season.
Shelling bean season is here, okay? It's almost the only time of the year where you can find fresh shelling bean as easily as dried beans. And I say like almost very, very lightly, because I can imagine for a lot of people, like my parents have never seen fresh shelling beans. I'm gonna show you how to cook them, which is essentially just boiling them, but with a lot of TLC, you can turn them into something extremely delicious. And I'll make a quick, simple salad, and we'll be on our way. There are so many various types of shelling bean, you know, from what you're like traditionally seeing at the grocery store, like a pinto, to like a butter bean. What I have here today is two of my favorite like seasonal ones. It's the coconero, which is a beautiful creamy black bean, and cranberry, which as you shop for them, there's no other easy way to like really pick them other than really like feel them. You want the pod to be full, because you're paying for the pod. Like, you're paying by the weight, right? So you're paying for the pod. So if you're feeling that the pod is full, you're happy. When picking your beans too, you want to make sure the shell feels fresh on the outside. That's going to be like a really good indicator that the actual bean on the inside is fresh as well. And you pay by the weight. They're kind of expensive. So like the longer you refrigerate them, the most likely they may get starchy. So once you buy them, ideally cook them within a few days. And that's what we're going to do. Let's get cooking some beans. So once you've shelled your beans, there's actually sadly nothing to do with the pods. So move on from the pods and we'll get to cooking them, which is going to be super simple. We're always going to cook all the beans separately as they need different amount of time. And they're like so nice and expensive. You don't want to like ruin your beans. So we're going to start, and I'm going to do 2 pots. I'm just using fancy pots, but you don't have to use fancy pots. Do a splash of olive oil in there. And then I'm gonna go all out, because to me this is like the joy of the summer, where like we made it to this point, so we're gonna go all out for the beans. So per pot, I'm gonna cook 1 head of garlic, cut 1 head of garlic, and put it cut side down in each pot. I'm gonna do the same with an onion. This also doesn't have to be like a red or a yellow onion. I'm actually gonna do like a white onion for maybe the cranberry, and a red onion for the black beans, the coconero. We're gonna put them over the stove over high heat until we're getting like a really, really deep caramelization going on here. At this point, we have got ourselves some really deep golden brown garlic and onion, and we're gonna add the wet ingredients. For the wet ingredients, I'm gonna add 1 tomato per pot. This is like a second quality tomato that like has cast its prime, and that's why I'm using it for this. Be careful with the splash here. For this part, I'd rather you not use a tomato than substitute it for like a canned tomato. I think this is like a very seasonal thing where this is gonna add a ton of flavor, texture, acidity, and a beautiful like stewiness to the broth. In the winter, I would use like a whole lemon instead. Anyway, on to more wet ingredients. I'm gonna do a little bit of herbs, which I have some thyme here, some beautiful fresh thyme. But you could use dry herbs, no problem. I'm gonna do a bay leaf just because I have them and I love using them. Frag that a little bit. And 1 chili, also optional, but I think it just adds so much flavor. Just 1 beautiful chili. And I'm gonna stir everything to make sure that the herbs and the chili is fried in the garlic, in the oil a little bit. Now that everything is nicely fried up, starting to stew a little bit and break down, I'm gonna add the beans. So 1 per pot. I'm gonna cover with water. This is not like dry beans that you need to have like 3 times the amount of water to bean. Because they are fresh bean, they will only need about ½ inch of water over the actual bean while it's cooking. And for those as well, like for those beans, you're so much better off starting with not enough liquid than too much, because If you have like too much liquid, essentially you're losing and diluting all the flavors. And if you keep just about enough and keep an eye open and add like a tiny bit more every time when needed, that's when you have like the most deliciously concentrated flavor beans. How do you say when something is like not a popular opinion?
Contrary to popular belief.
Controversial. Controversial thing. I add salt into my beans. I'm gonna start with one generous pinch.
Why is that controversial?
Because a lot of grannies have taught their kids, that have taught their kids, that have taught their grandkids that salt makes the outside of the bean tough. And I have never not once had that happen. I think there actually is a lot of shitty beans with tough skin out there, but no matter what you do will have tough skin. But I think that I would much rather take a risk and use the salt from the beginning, but have like a thoroughly seasoned bean, as opposed to like just throw a bunch of salt in the end and have it be like a liquid that's like overly salty, but a bean that's not salty at all. So go light on the salt, but I always start from the beginning with salt. Oh, and last but not least, one of the last sort of aromatic that we're going to use in here is a couple heavy glogs of olive oil. And I know we had some like at the beginning, but this one that we're adding now is going to be for flavor, as in like it's going to steep the actual broth and flavor it. And we're doing like a little oil at the beginning, a little oil now, and we're going to do like a touch more at the end. Bring it up to a boil, down to a simmer, keep an eye on it, and that's going to cook much faster than a regular bean. All right, so this was about a 25-minute process for both of them. No, well, the cranberry was done like a few minutes before. But I haven't even had to add any water. All I had to add is some salt. And if there's one thing I learned in my restaurant years, is when you're cooking beans or any type of legume, don't like taste one and if it's done, like turn it off. When you like taste for the doneness of beans, eat like 2 full spoonfuls, because they are so uneven. They could be like, half of them could be part raw and half of them could be perfect. But really the best indicator is for all of them to be creamy all the way through. Also, one more thing with the beans, they're ready to eat now. Like you could eat this as is, call this a meal, crack an egg and like have some yogurt or something. I actually find that if you let them sit in that broth overnight, the day after, they turn out their best. Like the chili has time to bloom and the herbs and the garlic really have time to give away all their flavor. So I'm just gonna show you a quick little thing I like to do with them. I really enjoy eating them kind of cold or lukewarm with tomatoes or whatever veggies of the moment you have. So time for beans. This is not gonna be crazy. You could dress the beans if you wanted to with a little oil and vinegar, but because they just got cooked, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna leave them as they are, kind of warm. Plus, when things are warm, they're more flavorful. And then, of course, coconeros come in the game. Oh, this is so pretty. All pastel colors, I love it. And then you've guessed it, we're gonna finish this with lots of olive oil. Some fancy salt. And a little bit of thyme. I used some thyme to cook it, so I figured may as well use some. Oh, beautiful it is. Oh, this is making me so happy. This is a real beautiful summertime delight. But once they're all cooked, you can definitely combine them because they've all cooked, you know, separately, differently. And now that they're cooked, they can be combined. That way it's easy to use them. I can't tell you enough how delicious and creamy and flavorful that broth is. Really a real summer delight. I hope this gave you, this in particular, gave you some ideas of how you can just make such a simple thing really incredible with the addition of beans, of fresh shelling beans, but I hope this gave you a taste for wanting to cook. Go buy, shuck, and cook some shelling beans. So we're gonna turn the AC back on. Thanks for watching.